My name is Sable Hart, 29 years old. Every morning at 7:15 a.m., Brian slid the tungsten band from his finger and set it in the same shallow dish on our dresser, keys, cufflinks, ring, like a ritual that asked no questions. Investment banking has an image, he'd said when I first asked. Engaged men look less dedicated to the grind. I laughed then, believing a lie that sounded like ambition wearing a suit. For 18 months, I watched the ring trace that tiny circle in our life and told myself it meant nothing. The first crack came from a glow I didn't expect, a LinkedIn notification at 2 in the morning. Melissa G. viewed your profile. We'd never met. I clicked out of curiosity and felt my stomach pitch. Relationship status, engaged. In her photo, a platinum halo wrapped a cushion-cut diamond big enough to catch a city. Posted 3 weeks ago. I closed the app and scolded myself. Brian worked 100 hours a week. When would he have time for anything but sleep and spreadsheets? But once doubt moved in, it rearranged the furniture. I noticed how he angled his phone away at the table. The unfamiliar cologne buried in his gym bag. The Dallas conference mentioned the night before he left. You're spiraling, my sister said over the phone. Brian worships you. I wanted to agree, but the word worship stuck to the roof of my mouth like taffy. His company's holiday party arrived with polished floors and glass walls that turned Manhattan into a necklace of lights. I wore an emerald dress, his favorite color, and he placed a steadying hand at my lower back. Remember, he murmured, smile fixed, keep it professional. These people decide my bonus. I nodded and played my part, asked partners about their ski trips, laughed at dry jokes, held Brian's gaze when he spoke about deals and timelines. A senior guy clapped Brian's shoulder and said, June's your runway to partner if you keep this pace. Brian's smile tightened. A millimeter. I filed it away without knowing why. Then Melissa walked in. She was taller than in her photos, auburn hair sleek, a dress that breathed money. The diamond on her left hand flashed as she waved, tiny comets scattering on the marble. Brian didn't wave back, but a micro-expression flared across his face. Panic, then a practiced neutrality. Who's that? I asked, casual as a cocktail napkin. New analyst, he said too lightly. Melissa something. She found our group like she belonged there. Brian, she said warmly. Nice to see you outside the office for once. Her gaze slid to me, then to my modest solitaire, the one he'd promised to upgrade when the market turned. You must be the famous fiancée, she said. Brian's told me so much about you. That caught. Brian swore he never discussed personal life at work. All good things, I hope, I managed. Melissa laughed a beat too long. Of course, I'm just surprised. She cut herself off. Surprised about what? I prodded, still pleasant. Her eyes darted to Brian. That you're different than I pictured. The word different wedged under my ribs. An hour later, I excused myself to find the bathroom. The corridor was quiet, humming with the building's breath. As I passed a conference room, I heard Brian's voice through a cracked door. Low, urgent. You can't be here. I work here, Melissa replied, sharper. I have every right. That's not what I mean, and you know it. 3 months, Brian, she hissed. You said 3 more months. A chair scraped. Keep your voice down. Why? Afraid she'll find out? My hand found the doorknob before my mind caught up. Does she know about Austin? Melissa asked. Silence. Or the apartment? Silence grew teeth. Then Melissa again, each word measured. Or that you've been engaged to me for 2 years? The doorknob turned under my palm. My heart didn't race. It simply stepped aside, letting a colder version of me move forward. In that sliver of a second, I noticed everything. The gleam of a venue brochure on the table, St. Regis embossed in gold, a deal binder labeled June, Brian's hair raked back in the way he did when crafting lies, Melissa's ring burning a white-hot star in the dim. I pushed the door open and their faces snapped toward me, Brian's color draining, Melissa's eyes widening with a complicated mix of shock and relief. The city glittered behind them like a witness. My voice, when it came, was steady enough to scare me. Start over, I said, from the beginning. Melissa was the first to recover. She straightened, the glitter of her diamond catching the light like a weapon. You should probably sit down, she said, her voice too calm for what she was about to detonate. I'm fine standing, I replied. Brian reached toward me. Rachel. It's Sable, I snapped. You might want to remember the name of the woman you're lying to. He swallowed hard, his hand lowering. The silence hummed. Melissa sighed. We've been engaged for 26 months. He proposed in Austin during the Goldman Conference. We were staying at the Driscoll. There are pictures. My brain stuttered. Austin? I whispered. You told me your grandmother was sick that weekend. Melissa's laugh was sharp, almost pitying. He told me she died. Brian pinched the bridge of his nose, muttering, This isn't what it looks like. Then tell me what it is, I said. It's complicated. No, Melissa cut in, her tone acid. It's calculated. He's been managing 2 engagements like spreadsheets. Monday through Thursday with me in Tribeca, our place. Friday through Sunday with her in Queens. 2 apartments, 2 rings, 2 lies. I turned slowly to Brian. Is that true? He didn't answer. Melissa continued, relentless. When he proposed to you, I found out on Instagram. From your post. She pulled her phone from her clutch and scrolled. Here, look familiar? On the screen, she stood beside him in Austin, wearing white, the skyline glowing behind them. 26 months, she said again. While he was promising me forever, he was buying you a starter ring. Brian's voice broke through the static. I love you both. Don't, I said. Don't even try. Melissa's hand trembled as she took off her ring. You're not special, Sable. Neither of us were. He's been doing this for years. My chest tightened. Years? She nodded. He told me he already had his MBA from Wharton, that he was an associate. He's not. He's a junior analyst. My father got him the job. I looked at Brian. Is any of it real? He didn't meet my eyes. I meant what I said about us. Which us, exactly? Please, let's go home and talk about this. Home? I repeated. You mean the apartment you co-signed under your name? The one I pay half the rent for? Or the other one in Tribeca with her furniture? Melissa pulled a folder from her purse and handed it to me. He filed eviction papers last week. Lease violation. You're listed as a guest, not a tenant. My fingers shook as I flipped through the pages. His signature stared back at me. When? I asked. Brian's silence was an answer. Melissa crossed her arms. He was going to marry me and evict you. But don't worry, he emptied our joint account too. $12,000. Gone. I laughed, but it cracked halfway. You actually kept receipts for your betrayal? It's called evidence, she said, and I'm building a case. Brian's voice came out desperate. It wasn't like that. I just wanted everything, I finished. Melissa's eyes met mine. He texted a friend about it, said keeping both relationships was business, that the money you saved was compensation for his time. Something inside me went cold. Compensation, I repeated. You're lying, Brian hissed. I have screenshots, Melissa shot back. The room felt smaller. My vision tunneled. So what now? I asked. You sue him? We both move on? Melissa exhaled shakily. I already called my lawyer. And my father. He's not getting away with this. Brian backed up toward the window. Cornered animal in a suit. You're not going to destroy me. Melissa's laugh was humorless. You already did that yourself. He looked at me then, the mask slipping. Sable, please. You're the only real thing I ever had. No, I said quietly. I was just the easier one to lose. I picked up the ring on my finger, the cheap tungsten twin to his, and set it on the table beside Melissa's diamond. You can keep them both. Seems fair. As I turned to leave, Melissa stopped me. Wait, one more thing. She reached into her clutch and pulled out a single sheet of paper. You should see this. It was a life insurance policy. My name, Brian, as the sole beneficiary. I stared at it. You've got to be kidding me. He has one on me too, she said softly. Different company, same payout. Brian's voice was almost a whisper. You're overreacting. It's just insurance. Everyone does it. My heart pounded. In case of what, Brian? He didn't answer. Melissa's hand brushed mine. Get your things tonight, before he changes the locks. I nodded slowly. The air tasted metallic. As I walked out of the conference room, I didn't feel like the woman who'd walked in wearing emerald silk and hope. I felt like something sharper. Behind me, Brian called out, We can fix this. I didn't even turn around. No, I said. You can't fix something you built on a lie. The door closed with the sound that felt like an ending. I didn't sleep that night. The city outside my window pulsed and glimmered, alive and indifferent. Every sound, the hiss of traffic, the groan of pipes, felt like a clock counting down. By morning, I'd packed my life into 4 suitcases and 3 boxes, 18 months reduced to what fit in an Uber XL. The apartment looked smaller once my things were gone. I noticed details I'd missed before: 2 toothbrushes that weren't the same color, a second phone charger that didn't match his model, a half-empty bottle of cologne tucked behind the towels. Little clues that had been whispering at me all along, and I'd been too in love to hear them. When I opened the closet, a folder slipped off the top shelf and spilled across the floor. I knelt, expecting wedding plans or lease paperwork. Instead, there were contracts, notarized eviction papers, and something else, an insurance document with my name on it. Policyholder, Brian Frost. Insured, Sable Hart. Payout, $500,000. Beneficiary, Brian Frost. My fingers went numb. I snapped photos of every page. That's when I saw the second policy. Same format, same payout. Only this one listed vehicular accident coverage. My phone buzzed. Melissa. Melissa, did you get out okay? Sable. Found something. Life insurance. On me. Melissa. On you? Jesus. Get out now. I didn't reply. I was already moving. As I reached the door, headlights swept across the blinds. Tires squealed in the parking garage below. I peeked through the slats. Brian's Porsche. The same car he always insisted I drive because his insurance covered me. My stomach turned to ice. I ducked behind the couch just as the elevator dinged down the hall. Footsteps. Keys jingling. I heard the lock test, then Brian's voice, low and tight. She can't prove anything, he muttered. The policies are legal, both of them. A pause. No, I wasn't going to actually. It was just insurance, in case. In case of what, Brian? He moved around the apartment, opening drawers, cursing. I inched toward the balcony door, slipped outside, and waited. He was still talking, voice muffled now. Both of them. The wedding's off. No, I don't know how much they know. When he slammed the door and left, I ran. The cold air hit me like adrenaline. I didn't stop until I was on the street, suitcase wheels rattling behind me. I called a ride, double-checking every shadow until the car arrived. At my sister's apartment, I collapsed on the couch and told her everything. The double engagement, the stolen money, the policies. Her face cycled through disbelief, rage, and fear. A life insurance policy? She said finally. That's not fraud. That's predatory. I don't know what he was planning, I whispered, but it wasn't good. She poured 2 glasses of wine and handed me one. We're calling the police. Before I could respond, my phone rang again. Unknown number. Hello? A woman's voice. Is this Sable? Yes. This is Ashley, Brian's ex. Melissa gave me your number. I sat up. Why are you calling me? I wanted to warn you about the girl before me. Her name was Vanessa. Warn me about what? Ashley's voice wavered. She found out about him. Same pattern. Engagement, lies, money. 3 days later, she had a car crash. Brake failure. She survived, barely. The police called it an accident, but Brian collected the insurance payout. My mouth went dry. You think he... I can't prove anything, but document everything and don't be alone with him. Check your car. The call ended. I don't have a car, I told my sister, my voice shaking. He's been insisting I drive his. Her face drained of color. Get me the policy number. I pulled up the photo on my phone. She typed rapidly into her laptop. This isn't car insurance, Isamaye, she said slowly. It's life insurance, specifically for vehicular deaths. He'd get the payout if you died driving that car. My vision blurred. He wanted me to drive it, I whispered. We both stared at each other. I need to call Melissa, I said. She answered on the first ring. You okay? No. Listen, Ashley called. Vanessa's crash wasn't an accident. Brian has a vehicular life policy on me. Silence. Then, on me too. I just found one in his files. Same company. Oh my God, I breathed. I'm already at my parents' with security, she said. Stay with your sister. Don't go anywhere alone. My father's calling the police. Your father? He's a managing director at Morgan Stanley, and he's furious. That night, I barely slept. Every creak of the apartment felt like a warning. My phone buzzed again at 3 a.m. Brian. Brian. We need to talk, please. Brian. I know you're reading this. Don't do anything stupid. Brian. I can explain everything. Brian. Don't make this worse for yourself. I turned the phone face down, heart hammering. I didn't reply. At dawn, I texted Melissa. We have to stop him before he hurts someone else. Her answer came immediately. My father's already on it. And Sable, don't be scared. He's not in control anymore. We are. For the first time in days, I almost believed her. By sunrise, the city had that cold, metallic stillness that comes right before chaos. I hadn't eaten, hadn't even changed clothes. My sister's couch had become my war room. Wine glass, phone charger, folder of screenshots spread out like evidence in a crime show. At 8 o'clock a.m., Melissa called. Her voice was clipped but steady. My father wants us both at his office. He's already spoken to the FBI. The FBI? I echoed. This isn't just fraud, Sable. It's multi-state insurance crime. He's done this before. Chicago, Boston, now here. My stomach clenched. How many women? 3 that they've confirmed, but probably more. When we reached her father's building, a marble and glass tower that reeked of money, security escorted us upstairs. Richard Grant was exactly what I imagined a Morgan Stanley executive would look like. Silver hair, crisp suit, eyes sharp enough to cut glass. He didn't waste time. You're both safe now, he said. My investigators found proof of stolen funds, forged documents, and fraudulent insurance policies. The Bureau's been tracking him for months, but your evidence connects all 3 jurisdictions. Melissa gripped my hand under the table. Her father noticed, but didn't comment. He's a flight risk, Richard continued. His passport's already flagged. He can't leave the country. What happens next? I asked. You let me handle this. He'll try to contact you. Ignore him. Every message strengthens our case. As if summoned by prophecy, Richard's assistant burst in, pale-faced. Sir, he's here. Melissa's head snapped up. What? Brian Frost. He's in the lobby demanding to see you. Richard's jaw flexed. Security's holding him? Yes, sir. I'll handle it, Richard said, standing. No, Melissa said firmly. We're coming. He hesitated, then nodded. Fine, but security stays close. We descended together, an entourage of fear and fury. Brian stood between 2 guards, looking nothing like the man I'd loved. His suit was wrinkled, his hair uncombed, his confidence shattered. When he saw us, he forced a smile that didn't reach his eyes. Melissa, Sable, he said, voice cracked. Tell them this is a misunderstanding. It's not, Melissa replied coldly. Richard's voice sliced through the air. Mr. Frost, you're no longer employed here. Your desk is being cleared. The FBI will contact you regarding the pending investigation. Brian's composure snapped. You can't do this. This is because I wouldn't marry your daughter. Richard laughed softly. No, this is because you're a con artist. You've defrauded multiple women, committed identity theft, and orchestrated insurance fraud across state lines. You're finished. For a moment, Brian's face twisted between rage and panic. Then something darker flickered in his eyes. You think you know everything? He said quietly. You don't. There are things you wouldn't want public. Richard folded his arms. Try me. Brian looked straight at me. Your mother. She's not dead. The floor tilted beneath me. What? She's been alive this whole time. Peaceful Meadows Psychiatric Facility, room 714. Ask your father. That's not true, I whispered. She died when I was 15. Call them, he said, a cruel smile forming. You'll see. I stared at him, speechless. Then he turned to Melissa. And you, want to tell Daddy about Trevor, or should I? Her breath caught. How do you know that name? Your little secret sophomore year. The abortion you never told him about. Daddy's perfect princess isn't so perfect, huh? Richard's face darkened. You investigated my daughter? Brian smirked. Insurance, remember? Always good to have leverage. Richard's voice was ice. Get him out of my building. Security tightened their grip, but Brian wasn't done. Check room 714, he shouted as they dragged him away. Ask about Patricia. That was my mother's name. The room blurred. Melissa reached for me. Don't listen to him. He's manipulating you. I need to know, I said, backing away. I have to know. I stepped outside into the freezing air and fumbled my phone. The number came up easily. Peaceful Meadows, Psychiatric Center, Newark. A woman answered on the second ring. Peaceful Meadows, how may I direct your call? I need to ask about a patient, I said, my voice shaking. Patricia Hart. Are you family? I'm her daughter. A pause, then soft piano hold music filled my ear. It lasted forever. Finally, another voice came on the line. Miss Hart, your mother is in our long-term care unit. Would you like to schedule a visit? My phone slipped from my hand and hit the pavement. Melissa knelt beside me, helping me pick it up. Sable? It's true, I whispered. She's alive. Melissa pulled me into a hug. For once, neither of us said anything. Back inside, Richard looked at us with a strange mix of pity and rage. I made some calls, he said quietly. Your mother has been there since 2014. Your father's been paying for her care. Why would he lie? That's something only he can answer, Richard said. But I wasn't ready to face my father, not yet. I'd learned enough lies for one lifetime. That night, as I sat by my sister's window staring at the city lights, I replayed Brian's words, check room 714. He'd used my mother's existence as blackmail, as leverage for a defense he'd never win. But in the end, his cruelty had given me something unexpected: truth. And I wasn't going to waste it. The next morning, I drove to Newark with my sister. Neither of us spoke. The closer we got, the heavier the silence felt, like grief waiting to reattach itself. Peaceful Meadows looked nothing like I imagined. It wasn't gray or sterile. It was quiet, sunlit, wrapped in a garden that smelled faintly of lavender. At the front desk, a nurse with kind eyes asked, "Are you here for a patient?" "My mother," I said, barely getting the words out. "Patricia Hart, room 714. She nodded. "She's having a good day. That's lucky." "Good day." The phrase made my chest ache. I followed her down a long corridor. The air was clean and faintly floral, the kind of calm that's designed, not accidental. My hands trembled as I gripped the visitor badge. When we reached the door, the nurse smiled. "Go on in. She'll know you." I knocked softly. "Come in," a voice said. It was her voice, older, thinner, but undeniably hers. She was sitting by the window, sketching flowers on a notepad, her hair streaked with gray, but her eyes, the same blue as mine, still sharp. When she looked up, confusion flickered for a heartbeat, then recognition softened everything. "Sable?" she whispered. My breath broke. "Hi, Mom." She stood, slower than I remembered, but steady. When she hugged me, the smell of pencil graphite and lilac lotion hit me like time travel. "I thought you were dead," I whispered against her shoulder. She pulled back, eyes clouding. "Who told you that?" "Dad." Her expression hardened. "He thought it was easier. He didn't want you girls to see me like this." "Like what?" "Sick," she said simply. "Broken, I guess. The doctors called it schizoaffective disorder. There were days I didn't know who I was. Your father said it was kinder to keep you away." Tears blurred everything. That wasn't his choice to make. "No," she said, her voice calm. "But he made it anyway." We talked for hours. She told me about the years she'd lost, the therapy, the medications that finally stabilized her. Sometimes, she said, she'd dream about our old house, the one with the oak tree and the wind chimes, and wake up certain she could hear us playing outside. "I thought maybe I'd died," she said quietly. "It's funny, isn't it? You thought the same thing." I wanted to rage, to demand why no one told me, but all I felt was hollow gratitude. At least I knew. The unknown had always been worse. Before I left, she squeezed my hand. "Whatever you do, don't hate your father. Hate keeps you sick longer than I ever was." I didn't promise her anything. Outside, my sister was waiting in the car, eyes red. "You saw her?" I nodded. "She's alive, and she remembers everything." We drove home in silence. I watched the sky turn from gold to gray and thought about Brian, how his cruelty had given me the one truth that mattered. A week later, I visited again. My mother had drawn a picture of two birds on a branch. "Freedom," she said, tapping the page. "They stay together, but they don't cage each other. That's how love is supposed to work." Her words stuck with me. Meanwhile, the case against Brian moved forward. Melissa and I met with two FBI agents, Agent Cruz and Agent Harding. Their office smelled like burnt coffee and stress. Cruz laid out files thicker than phone books. Brian Frost, a.k.a. Brian Farrell, a.k.a. Brandon Fields, 3 aliases. Same pattern in every city. Meets women through work or networking events, isolates them financially, takes out insurance policies, then disappears when the lies unravel. "How many victims?" Melissa asked. 7 confirmed, Harding said. "But you two," he paused, looking at me, "you two got out alive. The others weren't as lucky." My pulse quickened. "What do you mean, not lucky?" 2 accidents, 1 alleged suicide," Cruz said grimly. "But with your documentation, we can reopen those cases." "Good," I said, surprising even myself. "Do it." Melissa leaned forward. "Can we testify?" "Eventually," Cruz said. "For now, stay reachable. Don't contact him, don't post about this, and keep your phones on." That night, I couldn't sleep. I sat on my balcony with my mother's drawing in my lap, tracing the pencil lines over and over. When my phone buzzed, I nearly dropped it. A blocked number. I answered. "Hello?" A man's voice, low, controlled. "He's in custody." "Who is this?" "Agent Cruz. We picked him up tonight at a motel in Queens. He tried to flee the state. He had cash, fake IDs, and multiple phones." Relief hit me like a wave and left me shaking. "Thank you," I whispered. "Don't thank me," Cruz said. "Thank yourselves. Without you and Melissa, he'd still be out there." When I hung up, I finally let myself cry. Not the trembling tears I'd been holding in for weeks, real, shaking sobs that felt like something purging itself from deep inside. The next day, the story hit the news. Manhattan finance worker arrested in multi-state fraud scheme. His mugshot was everywhere. The sharp jawline I'd once kissed now looked hollow, the eyes unfocused. I stared at the screen for a long time, searching for the man I thought I'd loved, and found only a ghost. But underneath the ache, something else took root. Not peace, not yet. Resolve. Because justice, I was learning, wasn't a finish line. It was a beginning, and I intended to see it through. The first hearing came 3 weeks later. The courtroom smelled faintly of paper and disinfectant, a place built for order, but soaked in stories of chaos. Melissa and I sat side by side in the second row, our shared silence more intimate than friendship. Across the aisle, Brian sat with his lawyer, same tailored suits, but now they looked borrowed, like clothes that didn't belong to him anymore. When the judge entered, everyone stood. My knees shook, but I held my spine straight. The charges were read out one by one: wire fraud, identity theft, insurance fraud, conspiracies to commit assault. Each word landed like a hammer. Brian didn't look at me until the end. Then he did, and for a moment I saw the man I once thought I knew. Careful, charming, almost gentle. The expression that had once made me feel safe now just made my stomach turn. His lawyer argued for bail. My client has strong community ties, he said smoothly. He's a respected professional with no prior convictions. The prosecutor didn't even flinch. He has 7 aliases, 3 fake passports, and a documented history of manipulating women for financial gain. He's a flight risk. The judge's gavel came down. Bail denied. Melissa exhaled, trembling. I didn't realize I'd been holding her hand until she squeezed back. As the guards led Brian away, he turned once more. This time, there was no charm, only fear. Afterward, Melissa and I stepped outside into the cold daylight, blinking against the flash of cameras. News vans lined the curb. "Ms. Hart, Ms. Grant, any comment on the verdict?" reporters shouted. We said nothing. The cameras would make him famous. I wouldn't give him that satisfaction. That night, my phone lit up with messages from numbers I didn't recognize. Old coworkers, friends I hadn't heard from in years. Everyone wanted to talk. I ignored them all. Instead, I went to see my mother. She was sketching again when I arrived, this time a bridge spanning a river. "You look tired," she said, eyes soft but sharp. "It's over," I said quietly. "They arrested him. He's not getting out." "Good." She studied her drawing for a moment, then looked up. "Now what?" "I don't know," I admitted. "I thought I'd feel free, but I just feel empty." She smiled sadly. Justice doesn't refill what was taken. It just stops the bleeding. I sat beside her and watched as she shaded the water under the bridge. "You always wanted to be an artist," I said. "I still am," she replied simply. "Just slower now." She handed me the sketch. "Take it. You'll need something to remind you that broken things can still be beautiful." Her words sat heavy in my chest all the way home. 2 months later, Melissa and I were called to meet the prosecutors again. Agent Cruz was there, along with the assistant U.S. attorney, a woman named Harper with eyes like steel. "Brian wants to make a deal," Harper said. Melissa's jaw tightened. "Absolutely not." "Just hear me out," Harper said. "He's offering full restitution. Every dollar stolen from both of you, plus damages, for a reduced sentence of 5 years. I looked at her. "And what do you want us to do? Shake his hand and thank him for being efficient about it?" Harper didn't smile. He also claims to have information on 3 additional victims. One may still be in danger. The air seemed to thin. Melissa met my eyes. "He's bluffing." "Maybe," I said, "but what if he's not?" Harper folded her hands. "If you reject the deal, we proceed to trial. Maximum sentence, but we may lose track of the unknown victims." "Can we speak to them?" I asked. "If they're willing, yes," Harper said. "We'll arrange it." The following week, we met 3 more women in a small conference room. They all had the same hollow look, the quiet exhaustion of survivors who'd been disbelieved too long. Diana from Chicago, Chloe from Boston, and Vanessa on a video call from her rehabilitation facility. Diana spoke first. "He told me my family was toxic, convinced me to cut them off. By the time I found out the truth, I had no one left." Chloe's hands trembled as she spoke. "He had a fire set to my apartment after I discovered the insurance papers. I barely made it out." Vanessa looked directly into the camera, her voice soft but steady. "I'll never walk properly again, but if my story keeps him locked up, it's worth it." When they finished, the room was silent. Melissa whispered, "No deal." I nodded. "No deal." The trial lasted 2 weeks. Brian's defense tried to spin it as complicated relationships, painting him as a man torn between love and ambition. But the evidence was too strong. Screenshots, emails, insurance contracts, aliases, witnesses. When I took the stand, I focused on the facts. The money stolen, the fake leases, the insurance policies. I didn't give him emotion. I'd wasted enough of that on him already. Melissa followed, fiercer, angrier, but composed. She told them about the manipulation, the isolation, the constant gaslighting that made her doubt her own mind. The other women testified by video. Their voices shook, but their truth didn't. After 3 hours of deliberation, the jury returned. Guilty, the foreperson said, on all counts. Brian's head dropped. The sound of the gavel echoed through the courtroom like a final heartbeat. The judge sentenced him to 18 years in federal prison and ordered full restitution to all victims. He looked at me one last time as they led him away, but I didn't look back. Outside, the press swarmed again. Melissa leaned close and whispered, "It's over." I shook my head slowly. No, it's finally beginning. Because surviving wasn't the end of my story. It was the start of owning it. A week after the sentencing, I sat alone in my apartment, the one I'd found after everything collapsed. It was small, quiet, clean, and mine. No shared leases, no hidden paperwork, no second keys floating in someone else's pocket. For the first time in a long time, silence felt safe. I'd thought that when Brian went to prison, the noise in my head would die too, the looping why that kept me up at night. But it didn't. Justice had its limits. It punished, but it didn't heal. So I started over. I took a job at a nonprofit that helped victims of financial abuse rebuild their lives. It paid half of what I'd earned before, but every story I heard reminded me how lucky I was to still be standing. Some days I answered hotline calls. Other days I sat across from women trembling over forged signatures, empty accounts, ruined credit. I told them what no one had told me. You are not crazy. You were targeted. Melissa and I still met once a month for coffee. The first few times we barely talked about him at all. Eventually, we talked about everything else. Therapy, family, the weird comfort of finding someone who understood the same kind of wreckage. Her father, Richard, donated to the nonprofit quietly under another name. When I thanked him, he waved it off. You did what most people wouldn't, he said. You turned pain into purpose. Still, sometimes at night, I caught myself thinking of my father. I hadn't confronted him yet. For months, I'd avoided it, telling myself it could wait, that my mother needed stability, not another family explosion. But every time I visited her at Peaceful Meadows and saw the sketchbook stacked by her window, the weight of his lie grew heavier. One afternoon, I couldn't hold it anymore. I drove to his house, the same one I'd grown up in, though it looked smaller now. The wind chimes Mom had loved were gone. When he opened the door, he froze. Sable, he said quietly, like saying my name might break something fragile. I saw her, I said. He didn't pretend not to understand. His shoulders slumped. I suppose you did. You told me she was dead. He exhaled shakily. I thought it was kinder that way. She was sick. The episodes were violent. You were a child. I didn't want you to remember her like that. That wasn't your choice, I said, my voice trembling. You let me grieve a living person. Do you have any idea what that does to someone? Tears welled in his eyes, but I didn't feel sorry for him. I was ashamed, he said. Your mother's illness. It didn't fit the picture I wanted for us. There it is, I said, the picture. He nodded, defeated. You sound like her. I'm supposed to, I said. He reached for me, but I stepped back. I'm not forgiving you today, I said softly, but I won't stop paying for her care. You'll keep covering it too. That's not up for debate. He nodded again. I will, I promise. I turned to leave. Good. Because if you stop, I'll make sure the world knows what you did. He didn't call after me. The door shut quietly behind me, like a confession closing. That night, I drove straight to the facility. My mother was in the garden, feeding birds. You look lighter, she said, handing me a small piece of bread to scatter. I saw him, I admitted. And? He's still a coward, I said, but at least now he knows it. She smiled faintly. Cowards often learn too late. We watched the birds flutter around us. The sky was pale gold. For a fleeting moment, it felt like peace. 6 months later, a letter arrived. No return address, just my name, written in sharp, familiar handwriting. Brian Frost. I didn't open it. I took it to the kitchen, lit a match, and watched it burn in the sink until nothing remained but ash and the faint smell of smoke. Of Some stories don't need revisiting. A few days after that, Melissa called with good news. My therapist thinks I'm ready to start dating again, she said, laughing nervously. A guy from my gym asked me out. He seems normal. Normal's underrated, I said. You should come too. Double date. I smiled. Maybe someday. And I meant it. Later that week, I drove to Peaceful Meadows again. My mother was waiting with a new sketch. This one showed a woman standing on a cliff, her hair whipping in the wind. Beneath it, she'd written in pencil, "Truth outlives lies." I framed it and hung it in my office at the nonprofit. It reminded me every day of what I'd survived and what I'd chosen not to become. Because forgiveness, I'd learned, isn't mandatory. Healing doesn't require reconciliation. And sometimes the bravest thing you can do is walk away and never look back. When I locked up the office one evening, the city lights glittered through the windows. Somewhere, far from here, a man sat in a cell, writing letters that would never be read. I smiled to myself, turned off the light, and whispered, "Goodbye, Brian." Then I stepped outside into the night, free, finally, and unafraid of the truth.